This is Fanatec's McLaren GT3 wheel. I get asked quite often, Glenn, I'm getting into sim racing. What's the best budget wheel or best place to start? If you have access to Fanatec products at a reasonable price in your region, I do recommend the McLaren GT3 wheel for a few reasons. One, it's affordable. The wheel itself is $200 USD, thereabouts. Also their bases, they make some entry-level bases and some high-quality bases. So really all you need to get started with this wheel is literally the McLaren GT3 wheel and one of the McLaren bases, and then you're ready to go. Some of the other products, even other products from Fanatec, like the APM mod, you have to buy a hub, you have to buy the APM mod, the wheel, and of course the base. The APM mod is higher quality, it's nicer, but the McLaren GT3 wheel is better entry level. We make products for both. Frankly, this is my favorite wheel of all their wheels, even the higher end wheels. And I think our SimAbility paddles on this wheel are probably as good as anything out there. So this wheel, the main reason I recommend this wheel is because it comes with clutch paddles. And as far as I know, Fanatec was the first modern manufacturer to start putting clutch paddles back, analog clutch paddles. These aren't clicky like shift. These are actual analog paddles designed for gas and brake or clutch. So they're the first ones to put clutch paddles on a modern wheel. A lot of companies are following suit now, so that's a really good sign. But not only did they put the clutch paddles on here, they also enable gas and brake mode. So literally right on the front of the wheel, you can just turn the dial to C, and that will enable the gas and brake mode. That makes this wheel work on all the consoles. Depending on the base you buy, this wheel will work on Xbox, PlayStation, or PC. And you literally just buy the wheel and the base, plug it in, and you're ready to go with hand controls. So that the other thing I like about this wheel too is the size. A lot of people don't realize this wheel is actually pretty large. It's a 300mm wheel, which is bigger than the Formula wheels. I prefer the slightly larger size. For some, that may not be an advantage, but I do like it. It is a plastic wheel, has rubber grips, but it still feels great. I mean, you can tell, you compare it to a really high-end wheel, you can kind of tell it's plastic if you have high force feedback. But and the button layout on this is quite nice. I mean, pretty much everything you need where you need it. So it's a really nice entry-level wheel. The clutch paddles. These will work, like I said, right out of the box. And if you're a casual gamer, just using it occasionally, doing some driving, these are just fine. These will get you going. Especially if you're new to sim racing, you can discover if sim racing is right for you. If it is right for you, then we can start looking at some upgrades. So SimAbility now makes two products. We make a paddle extender product and a full paddle product. So our paddle extender product is a very simple paddle that's machined out of aluminum. Has the shape of the clutch paddle built in here so that when you put it on, once it sets on, it doesn't move. It stays in place. To keep it from actually falling off, you have two options. You can use a tie wrap that we provide, and that's pretty much what most people use, and that holds it on. You can also, you'll see that there's a hole here. You can, we provide a drill bit and a nut and screw. You can drill that out and hold it together with one nut. The nut actually goes in, if you can see it there, there's a honeycomb shape. The nut goes right into the honeycomb, the hole lines up. It's pretty simple to set up. So that is our paddle extenders solve two problems. One, you'll notice that the stock paddles are pretty small. They're clutch paddles, so it's supposed to be that way. But we extend them out a bit and we give you a little bit more surface area to get your fingers on. Extending them out makes the paddle a little bit, so it gives you more leverage on the clutch paddle. Because one thing about these clutch paddles is if you have full strength in your fingers, is probably fine. But if you have some neuro damage or anything in your fingers, you may find these hard to operate. This will make it a little bit easier. But anyway, so that is our paddle extender product. So moving on to our full paddles. This is my son's wheel here. And so the full paddles actually completely replace Fanatec's plastic clutch paddles. So if you're doing a lot of sim racing, a lot of driving, you may find that the plastic clutch paddles, they have basic bushings. They may wear out on you or might start sticking. That's where, by that point, you're pretty sure you're into sim racing, you're going to stick around. Then it makes sense to spend the money on the these are really high quality aluminum machined ball bearings in on the shafts. We use a high quality thin pot sensor. We're not able to use Hall effect because it will not work with the Fanatec input, but we use what's called a thin pot sensor. It's like an infinite resolution sensor that lasts a very long time. This product here plugs right in where the stock clutch paddles are for Fanatec. So this is your console, your PC won't know you've changed anything. It'll think it's a completely stock wheel. So that's the reason we use the thin pot sensors in this. So what you're going to get with this product is you get the clutch paddle assembly. The brake, in this case I've got brake configured on the left. That brake can be configured on the right as well, so they can be switched either way. But the brake has a adjustable rubber on it, so you can see it's quite difficult to compress. If you don't have a strong left hand or strong hands, you can actually remove this and you can operate it like a regular gas. I mean, without the extra rubber tension on it. But this extra rubber allows you to fine tune and get a little bit of that load cell feel. It's we kind of call it a load cell emulator. It feels a lot like a load cell, but this will greatly improve your braking. Everybody that's used it loves it. And again, this whole unit is high quality, nice smooth inputs. And that's really the big advantage of this product is you get the high quality, long life. Again, you get the plugs that'll literally plug right into the clutch paddles on the Fanatec wheel. I'll go over the installation in just a moment. Also too, you have some, you put on whatever paddles you want. We give a couple different paddle options. I'll cover that as well. So along with the analog paddle module, you also get a shifter module. And so this will replace the stock Fanatec shifter. And what that does, it gives you the ability to put on different paddles. So let me go into why we have different paddle configurations. So this configuration here is what we call our full paddle configuration as opposed to our split paddle. Our split paddle configuration is more traditional, where you have the shifter paddles on the top and the gas and brake paddles on the bottom. The full paddle arrangement allows you literally full paddle. So the advantage here is that if you're in a turn, you can continue to operate these paddles more easily in those 180-degree corners. You have literally full paddles to operate with. When you go with the full paddle option, presuming you're manually shifting, you're going to use the push buttons. So we provide the paddle arm and we literally just put push buttons on there instead of paddles. Some people love the setup. My son uses it. This is how he likes it. If you're only using this wheel, I do recommend the full paddles with the push buttons. But if you're switching between other wheels that have the more traditional split paddles, you're probably better off sticking with the split paddles. Now you can buy this product with both the split and the full paddle, or you can save money if you just want the split paddle or just the full paddle. You have that option. So as far as installation, I get a lot of questions on that. It is involved, but it's not difficult. It'll take you some time. I'd plan maybe an hour or so to get them installed. I have an install video. There'll be a link down below, but I have a partially disassembled wheel here. So what you're going to do to install these is the button plate. You're going to go ahead and remove the buttons. You're going to remove the face plate. And then once you're inside the wheel, you're going to remove the stock clutch paddles. Maybe this will be better. You're going to remove the stock clutch paddles from here. These are already removed. Probably the most difficult part of the installation is that they have some hot melt glue, some glue. You'll have to cut that off to get the paddles out. But once you get the stock paddles out, then you're going to basically install our paddles right in place, and they will attach to the quick disconnect. Now, on the Fanatec disconnect, this is the QR1 light. These paddles work with all of the disconnects, they also, including the QR2 light. However, the QR2 light, because it is so large, to install with the QR2 light, you'll need to disassemble the QR2 light to get the paddles on there. So I do recommend, if you're going with the QR2, to go with the QR2 standard or even the Pro if you have a lot of money. But the standard makes the installation a little easier. I have quite a few of them, so I do use the light. But the QR2 light and all of the QR2 ones, they all work. But back to the installation, so you'll put the paddle module on, and I'm going to pull this one off for now. And then for the shifting, you're going to remove the pin for the shifter, remove that pin, and you're going to pull off the stock gold shifter, and you're going to replace it with the SimAbility shifter arm. And from here, you have post, you can install your split paddles, or you can install the push buttons in the front to use the push button shifting. All right, and so once you have that done, you're basically going to reinstall and give it a test. By the way, if you're going to test, I would test the paddles before you put the faceplate back on. Make sure your clutch paddles are plugged in properly. By the way, speaking of that, you'll see the two connectors we have in here. They actually plug into the clutch paddle ports right there and there. And there's two different plugs apparently, and we make an adapter depending on which wheel you get as to which plug. Hopefully that covers the basics of the installation. Again, there's an installation video. I'll send you a QR code with that, as well as a link in the bottom. One last thing I want to mention is the springs. So if you order the standard paddles, they come with the standard springs. It's difficult to tell you how much tension the standard spring is, but I can tell you that they're about the same as the stock Fanatec clutch paddles. But because the paddle itself is extended out, you're actually getting more leverage, so they'll feel a little softer than the stock clutch paddles. So if you're not having any issues whatsoever with the stock clutch paddles, just order the standard springs. But if you have cerebral palsy or have nerve damage of some sort in your hands, you don't have full strength in your hands, then there is an option when you're ordering for the soft springs. In that case, you would want to go with the soft springs. I'll build it up with the soft springs and send it to you that way. You can also remove the brake rubber completely if you don't have enough strength, or you can adjust it back. But you can, it's versatile. I realize a lot of people don't have full hand strength, so we try to accommodate that. Just order with the soft springs, and I'll get that set up for you. If you make a mistake or change your mind later, these springs can be changed by the end user. It's not that difficult, though it is a little involved, but they can be changed later. So if you change your mind, you can do that. So the last thing so we took some footage a while back of me driving with different configurations of hand controls. I'm going to end this video with that. But before then, if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. Like, subscribe. I don't even care if you subscribe. I hope this video is useful. Biggest thing though is if you have questions, somebody else probably has the same question, feel free to just post it in the comments and I'll do my best to answer. So I'm going to go ahead and close out with a video of me driving, not very well a lot of times, but me driving with the Fanatec wheel. Okay, we're going to start off with more or less a baseline using a McLaren GT3 wheel. We're going to be using the stock paddle shifters as well as the stock clutch paddles. The left side will be the brake and the right side will be the throttle or gas. And right away we see something weird going on there in that tight right hand corner. If we watch closely, watch my right hand on the throttle. As I turn right, I'm actually having to reach over the top of the wheel. I know it's difficult to see, but I'm reaching over the top of the wheel to get to the clutch paddle, which is actually the gas paddle. And then once I'm full throttle, I can just roll my hand back where it belongs. So that was an example of a right-hand corner where my hand goes to the bottom of the wheel. Now left-hand corners are much easier. As you can see here, my hand stays It's essentially at the top of the wheel, so it's easy to stay on the throttle. So I should mention that for this demo, I've got the stock rotation on the wheel, which is quite a bit, or I should say full rotation. People that use hand controls a lot of times, particularly with tight tracks, any tracks with a tight hairpin, they will back off the rotation a little bit so they don't have to turn the wheel quite as far. But for this video, I wanted it to be as difficult as possible. Also, too, I chose a track with as many tight corners as I could find. Okay, so I'm going to do another lap, same track. This time I've got the paddle extenders installed. And you'll notice when we come up on this tight right-hand corner, it's not quite as difficult to get on the throttle. I've got a little bit more paddle. I can use a single finger. I don't have to reach over the top of the paddle shifter. And just overall, the paddles are a little bit easier to get to. I wouldn't call these a huge improvement, but it's definitely better than the stock clutch paddles. We've improved the paddle surface area, but we still don't have the brake rubber mod or the durability of the full paddles here. Also, too, because they are longer, that it doesn't take as much force to operate the paddles. And I have these installed with the tie wraps. You'll notice there's no screw and nut in there. It's just the tie wraps, and you'll see that they don't move around. They don't move at all. So now I'm going to do a lap with our full paddles installed, and I've got the split paddle configuration. It's probably our most popular configuration. This allows larger shifter paddles and gas and brake paddles. Also, too, it allows adjustability. So you notice on this tight right-hander, I've actually got the throttle paddle extended out a little bit further than the shift paddle. That allows me a little more reach so I can get a single finger on the throttle paddle without hitting the shift paddle. It's personal preference, but that's how I like it. And the full paddles come with the resistive brake mod. As you can see here going into the corner, what I'm feeling right now as I'm getting on the brake is increased resistance as I add brake. It gives me kind of a load cell feel. This allows me to control the braking a lot better than the stock Fanatec clutch paddles. So now I'm going to take a lap with our full paddles. And with these, you'll notice that I have a ton of real estate for the gas and brake. It's nothing but paddle on the back side of the wheel. Now to shift, I'm actually pushing buttons on the front. You can see the shifter move, but if you watch my thumbs, you'll see that that's how I'm shifting. There's push buttons in there that I'm able to push to shift up and down. This configuration gives you the best control over the gas and brake paddles. The shifting it can take some getting used to, but I recommend this configuration if this is the only wheel that you're using. If you are using other wheels with standard shifting, you probably want to go ahead and stick with the shift paddles. But once you learn how to use this, once you learn how to drive with this, I think it's probably the most efficient. So you don't have to limit yourself to only push button or only standard paddle shifting. You can actually combine the two. In this arrangement, on the left-hand side for my braking hand, I've got a standard brake paddle and a standard paddle shifter. Whereas on the right-hand side for my throttle, I've got a full paddle. Since we do most of our braking in more or less a straight line, I can get away with the standard paddle shifter on the left-hand side. But on the right-hand side, for getting out of tight hairpins, I find it easier to use the full paddle. And I do have a couple customers that have a similar configuration. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, go ahead and leave them down in the comments and I'll do my best to answer. I just wanted to leave you with some video of a product that is not official yet. It may never be official. We're just testing it right now. What this is our magnetic paddle shifter. It completely replaces the Fanatec shifting mechanism. Our regular paddle shifter that comes with the full gas and brake mod actually utilizes the stock Fanatec shift buttons. This completely replaces them with a little bit nicer magnetic paddle shifters. If you're interested in this product, let me know, and we may make it available. But it's really there because there were a couple customers that like the Sim Makers. I think they make a magnetic paddle shifter for this wheel. Unfortunately, it doesn't fit with our gas and brake mod, so just kind of looking at this as a possible option for those that want an actual magnetic shifter. Happy sim racing all.